Welcome to Chapter 10 of The Bark-Covered House by William Knowlin, Adventures in Early 19th Century Michigan, the backwoods of Michigan. Chapter 10, How We Got into Trouble One Night and I Scared. One warm day in winter, Father and I went hunting. I had the rifle that day. We went south, crossed the Windfall and Reed Creek, and went into what we called the Big Woods. We followed deer, but seemed to be very unlucky, for I couldn't shoot them. We traveled into the woods all day and hunted the best we could. Just at sundown, the deer that have been followed all day were apt to stop and browse a little. Then, if the wind is favorable and blowing from them to you, it is possible to get a shot at them. But if the wind is blowing from you to them, you can't get within a gunshot of them. They will scent you. They happened to be on the windward side, as we called it. I got a shot at one and killed it. It was late, and carelessly, I didn't load the rifle. It being near night, I thought I should not have a chance to shoot anything more. It was my custom to load the rifle after shooting. If I didn't have any use for it before, when I got near home, I shot at a mark on a tree or something, and in that way I practiced shooting and let the folks know that I was coming. And in this way I also kept the rifle from rusting, as sometimes it was wet. When I got into the house, I cleaned it off and wiped it out. In a few minutes we'd skinned the 2 fore quarters out. And then we wrapped the forepart of the hide around the hindquarters, and we each took half and started. It was now dark, and we did not like to undertake going home straight through the woods, so took our way to the Reed house, from which there was a dim path through 2 pardees, and we could find our way home. We were tired and hungry, and our feet were wet from traveling through the soft snow. As Mr. Reed had moved away, there was no one in the house, and we went in and kindled a fire in the fireplace. The way we did it, I took some punk wood out of my pocket, held the flint stone over it, and struck the flint with my knife, and the punk soon took fire. We put a few whittlings on it, and then some sticks we had gathered in the way near by the house, and we soon had a good fire and were warming and drying our feet. This punk wood I got from soft maple trees. When I wanted some, I went into the woods and I looked for an oldish tree. I looked up, and if I could see black knots on the body of the tree toward the top, I knew there was punk wood in it, and would cut it down and then cut halfway through the log above and below the black knot and split it off, and in the center of the log I was sure to find punk wood. Sometimes in this way I got enough to last a year or 2 from one tree. It was of a brown color and was found in layers which were attached and adhered together. When I chopped a tree, I took all out I could find, carried it home, laid it up in a place where it would get drier, and it was always ready to use. We had to use the utmost caution not to get out of this material. Sometimes I have known my little Michigan sister Abby to go more than a quarter of a mile to the Blair place to borrow fire on such occasions that we've had to wait for breakfast until she returned. I do not know that the fire was ever paid back, but I do know that we had callers frequently when the errand was to borrow fire. When I went hunting, I was careful to take a piece of this with me. I broke it or tore it off. It was something like tearing old cloth. And with this, a flint and a jackknife, I could make a fire in case night overtook me in the woods and I could not get out. Fire was our greatest protection from wild animals and cold in the night. This was the way we kindled our fire in the Reed house before lucifer matches or telegraph matches were heard of by us, although they were invented as early as 1833. When we got a little comfortable and rested and the wood burned down to coals, we cut some slices of venison, laid them on the coals, and roasted them. Although we had no salt, the meat tasted very good. Late in the evening we took our venison and started again. It was hard work to follow the path in the thick woods, and we had to feel the way with our feet mostly, as it was quite dark. We had got about 80 rods from the house when, as unexpected as thunder in winter, broke upon our startled ears the dismal yells and awful howls of wolves. No doubt they had smelled our venison and had come down from the west, had come down almost upon us and broke out with their hideous yells. The woods seemed to be alive with them, and Father said, "Load the rifle quick," and I dropped my venison, and if I ever loaded a gun quick in the dark, it was then. I threw in the powder. I rammed down the ball without a patch, and strange to say, before I got a cap on, the wolves were gone, or at least they were still. We didn't even hear them run or trot. What it was that frightened them, we never knew. Whether it was our stopping so boldly, or the smell of the powder, or what, I cannot say. But we did refuse to let them have our venison. We got away with it as quickly as possible and carried it home safely. Another wolf adventure worth relating. I had been deer hunting. I had been off beyond what we called the Indian Hill and was returning home. It was southwest of this hill and on the north side of a little ridge which ran to the hill when two wolves came from the south. They ran over the little ridge, crossing right in front of me to go into the big thicket north. I had my rifle on then. They did halt, but in shooting very quickly, I did not get a very good sight. However, I knocked one down and thought I had killed him. They were just about a size, and when I shot, the other went back like a flash the way he had come from. I loaded the rifle, but before I had it loaded, the one I had shot got up and looked at me. I saw what I had done. I had cut off his lower jaw close up, and it hung down. Another shot finished him quickly. He measured 6 feet from the end of his nose to the point of his tail. I have seen many wolves. I have seen them in shows, but I never saw any that compared in size to these Michigan wolves. It takes a very large, long dog to measure 5 feet. There was a bounty on wolves, and I went down through the woods to Squire Goodles, who lived near the Detroit River, and got him to make out my papers, and I got the bounty. These pests were more shy in the daytime. They were harder to get a shot at than the deer. There were many of them in the woods, and we heard them so often nights that we became familiar with them. When the Michigan Central Railroad was built and the cars ran through Dearborn, there was something about the iron track or the noise of the cars which drove them from the country. Hunting and wolves. That's not something we can, get connected with too much. Although around here we have a lot of coyotes that we didn't have when I grew up as a kid. Never, not a single coyote. Now you can hear them yelling and screaming some nights, especially in the wintertime. It's quite something. So sometimes you'll wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're just making all kinds of racket. I hope you've enjoyed this little adventure in early 19th century Michigan. Such adventures, and I am so glad that he wrote this book so we get to go on some of these adventures with him. I hope you've enjoyed this chapter. I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching.